Everyone thought that at the funeral of her wealthy and universally respected husband, the young widow would crumble in grief. Street. Mary's Catholic Church fell dead silent, everyone holding their breath, waiting for the sound of agonized weeping. But no. My sister, Jennifer, walked up to the casket, but instead of a farewell kiss, she gathered the saliva in her mouth and spat right in the corpse's face, to the absolute horror of hundreds of onlookers. That act wasn't just a moment of rage. It was the fuse that detonated a bomb of horrific truths buried for 5 years. Truths about a 4-year-old girl sold by her own father to pay off a debt. About 4 other young girls who died mysteriously in that very house before my sister arrived. And about my own cowardly silence, the big sister who stood by and watched her sibling live in hell without daring to say a word. I am Barbara, and today I must confess what really happened behind the gilded doors of the Montgomery family. If you are listening from anywhere in the world, please leave a comment and subscribe, because there are truths that need to be spread, even if they might shake your faith to its core. There are stories that, no matter how painful, simply must be told. I am Barbara, I am 79 years old, and I live in a townhouse in Nashville with my husband, Gary. We got married a short time ago, a matter of a few months. I know, it seems crazy to get married at this age, but there are things in life that don't have an expiration date. Love is one of them. But I'm not here to talk about me, no. I'm here to talk about Jennifer, my younger sister. She is 69 years old today and manages a hotel over in Gatlinburg, a beautiful hotel, full of people, known in the entire region. But it wasn't always like this. Jennifer didn't always have all this strength, this life she built. Everything changed at a funeral almost 50 years ago now, but I remember it like it was yesterday. St. Mary's Catholic Church was packed. People from every part of town. The deceased was Mr. Arthur Montgomery, Jennifer's husband, a rich man, respected, a landowner. Everyone was crying, everyone saying, "What a pity, what a good man gone." I was there, sitting on a pew in the back, clutching my purse so hard my nails marked the leather. My heart was beating out of rhythm. I knew something was going to happen. I felt it in the air. Jennifer arrived late. The church door opened with a creak, and she entered. Thin as a stick, black clothes, hair loose falling on her shoulders, deep eyes without shine. Everyone turned to look. She walked slowly down the center aisle. Her steps echoed in the silence. People moved away, opening the path. She didn't look at anyone. She only had eyes for the casket up front, for the body of her husband, the man she had loved for 5 years. I held my breath. She stopped in front of the casket, stood there, looking at his face. Arthur was there in a black suit, hands crossed on his chest, looking like he was sleeping, looking like a saint. The whole church fell silent. You could hear the wind outside, the creaking of the wood of the pew when someone moved. The priest had stopped praying, everyone waiting for the widow to cry, to crumble, to fall to her knees. But she didn't crumble. Instead, she did exactly what I described earlier, an act that is burned into my memory forever. She gathered saliva and spat directly into the corpse's face. The shockwave that went through the church was palpable. Then came the scream, a sound so raw it made the walls shake. "Die again, you damn bastard." If you had been there, you might have thought my sister had lost her mind. But looking into her eyes at that moment, I didn't see madness. I saw the gasping breath of a drowning woman breaking the surface after 5 years underwater. That wasn't an act of disrespect toward the dead. It was the primal roar of survival. Her words cut the air like a knife. My body froze. My mother started to cry. My father tried to get up to go to her, but his legs didn't obey. And Jennifer continued screaming truths that no one wanted to hear, truths that had stayed buried for 5 years, truths that were going to destroy everything. She told things right there in front of everyone about that man. Terrible things, things that made the whole church go into shock. Arthur's family screamed, "Liar!" They tried to shut her up, but she didn't stop. She screamed everything. Every word was like a bomb exploding, every accusation graver than the last. What she revealed that day was so horrible, so unthinkable, that it changed the whole town forever. The priest tried to get her out of there. Arthur's family advanced on her. But that was when Mr. Gary stood up from the pew where he was sitting. He was a lawyer, still young back then, serious, with glasses. He raised his hand and spoke loudly. I will discover the truth about everything she said. I will investigate every word. And if what she is saying is true, everyone here will have to answer for it." His voice cut through the tumult. The people went silent, and I knew in that moment that nothing was going to be like before. Never again. Jennifer was taken out of the church by my mother, crying, screaming, struggling. The funeral ended in confusion. Arthur's family left furious. People stood whispering, scandalized, in complete shock at what they had just heard. I stayed there, sitting, paralyzed, unable to move, because I knew all of that was true. I had seen the signs, terrifying glimpses of the truth, yet I had done absolutely nothing. I chose silence, and that silence almost killed her. Some people say we can't blame ourselves for what we didn't know, but I knew. I always knew there was something very wrong. But to understand how we got to that day, to that funeral, to that explosion of truths, I need to go back in time. I need to tell you how it all started, how that man entered our lives, how he fooled everyone, how we let him do what he did. Because this story doesn't start at the funeral. It starts 5 years earlier, on a winter day, on a day when the devil knocked on our door, and we opened it, thinking it was an angel. It was winter when I met Arthur Montgomery. A harsh winter, the kind where the cold cuts the skin and the wind enters through the cracks of the windows. I was 24 years old, already married at that time. I lived close to my parents' house in Franklin, Tennessee. I went there almost every day to help my mother, to see my brothers. Jennifer was the youngest. She had just turned 14. She was still a skinny girl, ponytail, big and curious eyes. She liked to help Mom in the kitchen, to play with the neighbors' cats. It never crossed my mind that someone could look at her in another way, that someone could see malice where there was only innocence. My father, Mr. Frank, had a small general store near the house. He sold a little of everything, groceries, tools, fabric. But the business was doing badly, we knew. He had taken a loan from a loan shark to try to save the store, but the debt only grew. Interest on top of interest. He was desperate, losing sleep, not knowing what to do. My mother prayed every day for a solution to appear, and that was when Arthur appeared. Only we didn't know that his solution came with a price that no money in the world could pay. It was on a Saturday afternoon. Someone knocked on the door. My father opened it, and there he was, Arthur Montgomery, tall, in black, hat in hand, smile on his lips. He introduced himself as a merchant, a widower, said he knew my father from the store, said he had heard about the difficulties and wanted to help. Simple as that. Wanted to help an honorable family that was going through a tight spot. My father was speechless, invited him to come in. They sat in the living room. Arthur took an envelope with money out of his pocket, said it was a loan, no interest, that my father could pay when he was able. My father almost fell backward. No one did that. No one lent money without wanting anything in return. They say there is no such thing as a free lunch. And sadly, they are right. It is the oldest trick in the Predator's Handbook. Find a desperate man, offer him a lifeline, and then quietly tighten the noose around what he values most. But I saw when he looked at Jennifer. It was just a second. Jennifer had entered the room bringing coffee. She put the tray on the table, all shy, and left. And Arthur looked at her in a way that gave me chills. A look that lingered too long. A look that wasn't of an uncle, wasn't of a friend of the family. It was something else. Something that left me with goosebumps. But when I blinked, he was already talking to my father again. Smiling, polite. I thought I had imagined it, that I was seeing things where there was nothing. I should have trusted my instinct. I should have said something right there. But I didn't. I swallowed the fear and pretended everything was fine. After that day, Arthur started showing up constantly. Every week he came, always bringing something. A sack of flour, fabric for my mother to make clothes, candy for the boys. My father was grateful. My mother thought he was an angel. The neighbors whispered, "What a good man, helping Frank's family like that." And he smiled humbly, saying it was nothing, that he liked to help. But I saw how he made excuses to stay, how he started conversations, how he always asked about Jennifer. And the girl, how is she? Grown up, huh? My stomach turned, but I didn't say anything. One afternoon I was there at the house and heard a scream. I ran to the window. It was from my mother's house. I ran out, crossed the yard, entered through the kitchen door. Jennifer was standing near the table, her arm red and marked. Arthur was there standing with a box of chocolates in his hand. My mother wasn't there. I asked what had happened. Jennifer said it was nothing, that she had bumped into the corner of the table. Arthur smiled and said, "Clumsy girl, right?" But I saw the way he was holding her arm before I entered. I saw the fear in Jennifer's eyes. I saw, and I did nothing because I was afraid of being wrong. Afraid of accusing an important man without proof. Afraid of causing problems for my father, who owed him money. Weeks went by. Arthur became almost family. My father trusted him, said he was a good man, generous, of his word, that we were lucky to have a friend like that. I started avoiding going to my parents' house when I knew he would be there. I couldn't look at his face, couldn't pretend everything was normal. Jennifer became quieter, less talkative, stopped playing with the cats, stayed locked in her room. My mother thought it was an age thing, that a 4-year-old girl gets like that, temperamental. But it wasn't that. She was afraid, and I knew, and I stayed silent. Until one Saturday, Jennifer disappeared. She had gone to get bread early in the morning and didn't come back. My mother was desperate. My father went out searching. They called the neighbors. Searched the whole town. Nothing. No sign of her. No clue. Night fell, and nothing. Sunday passed, and nothing. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 days. 3 days that seemed like 3 years. My mother didn't sleep, didn't eat, only cried. My father paced back and forth, aimless, not knowing what to do. I prayed that she had run away, that she had gone far away. But deep down I knew where she was. On Wednesday afternoon, she appeared, entered through the front door, clothes torn, dirty with dirt, hair disheveled, empty eyes. She didn't say anything, just entered and went straight to her room. My mother ran after her, locked the door. I stayed in the living room with my father waiting. The silence was heavy, suffocating. After an hour, my mother came out. Her face was swollen from crying so much. She looked at my father and said in a whisper I will never forget, "She is expecting a child." The world stopped. My father went white and I knew everything had ended. That Jennifer's life, my little sister's life, had ended in that moment. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, looking at the ceiling, thinking about Jennifer, trying to understand what had happened, who had done that to her. But deep down, I already knew. I already knew from the first look. Since that day, he appeared at our door. I had seen all the signs and had ignored every one. I had chosen to believe I was imagining things. I had chosen silence because it was easier, because I didn't want to cause trouble, because I was afraid. And now Jennifer was paying the price for my cowardice. Some people say it's no use blaming yourself for the past. But how can I not blame myself? How? The next morning early, Arthur appeared at my parents' house. Didn't even wait to be called, just appeared. Knocked on the door and entered, asked to speak with my father. Alone, they locked themselves in the living room. I stayed outside trying to listen, but couldn't hear properly. Only muffled voices. My father speaking loudly at some moments, nervous. Arthur speaking low, calm. The conversation lasted hours. Hours in which my mother prayed the rosary 3 times in a row. Hours in which I held her hand and prayed along, knowing it wouldn't do any good, because everything was already decided. It had already been decided the moment Arthur stepped into that living room. When the door opened, my father came out with a grim face, shoulders slumped. He seemed to have aged 10 years in a few hours. Arthur came out behind him serious, but with that little smile in the corners of his mouth, a smile that gave me nausea. My father took a deep breath and spoke. "Jennifer is going to marry Mr. Arthur. It fits. It is the only solution. He is willing to take responsibility, to take care of her and the child. It is the right thing to do." His voice trembled. He didn't look at anyone, only at the floor, as if he was ashamed. And he was. He had to be, because he wasn't talking about marriage. He was talking about a sale. He was selling his daughter to pay a debt and hide shame. I know. I can hear you asking, why? Why didn't anyone call the police? How could a father do such a thing? But you must remember, those were days when a man's reputation weighed heavier than a daughter's life. In our world back then, debt was an unforgivable stain. And a daughter was merely a bargaining chip, traded for a moment of peace. It is a painful truth, but it was our truth. It's heartbreaking to realize that sometimes the monsters aren't hiding under the bed. They are the very people supposed to protect us. But hold on, because this decision didn't just seal Jennifer's fate. It planted the seeds for a shocking revelation decades later that you won't see coming. I stood up, screamed, asked if he had lost his mind, how he could marry Jennifer to that man. She was 14, she was a child, and he was 45. He was an old man. How could my father not see what was happening? How could he not realize that this was wrong? My father looked me in the eyes for the first time, and what I saw there frightened me. It wasn't anger, it was despair. He said, "Barbara, you don't understand. The girl is dishonored. If we don't do this, no one else will want to marry her. She will be marked for the rest of her life. Arthur is offering a name, a home, respect, and he is forgiving the entire debt. It is the best way out. Forgiving the debt." So that was it. It was all about money, about reputation, about hiding the truth. I wanted to talk to Jennifer, wanted to go into her room, take her by the hand, run away from there, take her far away. But to where? I was married, I had no way to support her, no way to face my husband, my family, the whole town, saying I had taken my sister from home to hide a pregnancy. There was no way to fight against all that alone. And that is the part that hurts the most. It's not just that I did nothing when I should have. It's that I did nothing because I didn't want to lose my comfortable life, because I chose my peace instead of my sister's safety. Is there forgiveness for that? I don't know. I really don't know. Admitting this to you now makes my throat tighten with shame. You see, the devil doesn't always appear with horns and claws. Sometimes, he looks just like a big sister turning her back, simply to keep her own life comfortable. If you are judging me right now, please, go ahead, because I have never been able to forgive myself, either. Mom was the one who told Jennifer. She went into the room, closed the door. I heard the scream, a scream that tore my soul. Jennifer screaming, "No, no, no!" Banging on the door, begging. My mother crying, trying to calm her down, saying it would be good, that Arthur was a good man, that she would have a good life, a big house, that the baby would have a father, a name, a future. All the words we say when we want to convince someone to accept the unacceptable. And Jennifer went silent little by little, until only the crying remained. A low, broken cry, without hope. The cry of someone who gave up, who realized there was no way out. The wedding was set for 3 weeks later. Time to do things right, my father said. Time to buy clothes, fix up the church, invite family. Time to pretend that this was normal, that it was beautiful, that it was right. The whole town found out. The neighbors came to ask curiously, "Is it true that Jennifer is going to marry the widower Montgomery? Wow, but she is so young." And my mother answered with a forced smile, "Well, yes, but it's love. When it's love, age doesn't matter." Love? What a dirty word in that mouth. What a disgusting lie. And everyone pretended to believe it, because it was easier than facing the truth. I tried to talk to Jennifer in those 3 weeks. I tried about 5 times, but she wouldn't open the door, wouldn't answer. She stayed locked in her room the whole time, only coming out when Mom forced her to try on the dress, to go to the church to sign papers. She was thin, pale, purple circles under her eyes, looked like a ghost, looked like she had already died on the inside. And maybe she had. Maybe the Jennifer I knew really had died in those 3 days she was missing. And who was there now was just an empty shell, a doll in the hands of people who decided her future without asking what she wanted. I was one of those people. I decided too. I decided by silence. On the eve of the wedding, I had a nightmare. I dreamed I was at Jennifer's funeral. She was in the casket, tiny, in her wedding dress. And Arthur was by her side, smiling, saying she was his now forever. I woke up sweating, heart racing. I looked at my husband sleeping next to me, thought about waking him up, telling him everything, asking for help, but I didn't. I got up, went to the kitchen, drank water, stared out the window until the sun came up, and when it dawned, I put on my good dress, fixed my hair, and went to the wedding because that's what I did. I obeyed, pretended, survived, even if it meant burying my sister alive. And the next day I saw my 4-year-old little sister marry a 4 or 5-year-old monster. I saw my father give her away at the altar as if she were a gift. I saw the priest bless that farce. I saw the whole town applaud, and I did nothing. Absolutely nothing. I just smiled, threw rice, wished happiness like everyone else, as if it were normal, as if it were right, as if there was nothing wrong there. But there was. Everything was wrong, and I knew it. Since the first day, I always knew. Street Mary's was almost empty, only close family. My father didn't want a big party. Said it was a simple wedding, no fanfare. But the truth is he was ashamed. Ashamed to explain to people why. The 4-year-old daughter was marrying a man 3 times her age. So he invited few people, enough to look respectable, but not enough to have to give explanations. I arrived early with my husband. We sat in the 3rd pew. The altar was decorated with white flowers, smell of incense mixed with candle wax. Everything very beautiful. Everything very fake. Jennifer entered holding my father's arm. Her dress was simple, no lace, no shine, white as a shroud. She didn't lift her head, looked only at the floor. Her steps were slow, dragging, as if every step hurt, as if she had chains on her feet. My father was serious beside her, chin up, trying to look proud. But I saw the sweat on his forehead. I saw his hand shaking. He knew, of course he knew what he was doing, but he needed the money more than he needed a clean conscience. It's funny how we convince ourselves we are doing the right thing, when actually we are just doing the easiest thing. Arthur waited at the altar. Impeccable black suit, polished shoes, hair slicked back with grease. Smiling. He was smiling, as if it were the happiest day of his life. And maybe it was because he had succeeded. He had fooled an entire family, had bought a girl. He was going to leave there with signed papers, with the church's blessing, with everyone's approval, and leave there with Jennifer trapped forever. Legal, respectable. No one would be able to question it. When my father placed Jennifer's hand in his, I saw her shrink, saw her body recoil. But Arthur squeezed hard, and she stayed quiet. The priest began the ceremony. He spoke of love, of respect, of till death do us part. The words were beautiful, but sounded hollow, sounded like lies. I looked at Jennifer, trying to find her gaze, trying to get her to look at me, but she didn't look at anyone. She was there, but she wasn't. Like she had switched off, like she had gone somewhere inside her head, where none of that could reach. I learned later that was how she survived, switching off, absenting herself, leaving the body there, but taking the mind far away, very far away. When it came time for the vows, the priest asked, "Jennifer, do you take Arthur as your husband?" The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity. Everyone held their breath. I prayed. I prayed that she would say no, that she would scream, run, flee, that she would have the courage I didn't have. But she didn't. She whispered in a thread of a voice that could barely be heard, "I do." And in that moment I felt like I had lost her, like the Jennifer I knew had died right there, standing in front of the altar. And who was there now was just a shadow, a faded version of herself. Arthur didn't hesitate. When the priest asked if he accepted, he spoke loud and clear, "I do," as if it were obvious, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He took the ring and shoved it onto Jennifer's finger. She didn't react, just stood there, looking at her own hand. I noticed he had a small box in his jacket pocket. When he put his ring away, the box stayed slightly open. There were other rings in there, several, of different sizes. Old ones. I froze. Why would a man carry a bunch of rings in his pocket? That didn't make sense. But before I could think more about it, the priest said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." And it was done. Arthur leaned in to kiss Jennifer. She turned her face. The kiss landed on the corner of her mouth. He laughed softly, as if it were funny, as if she were playing hard to get. No one else seemed to notice. Or if they noticed, they pretended they didn't see. People clapped. A few weak claps, without emotion. Mom was crying in the first pew. I don't know if it was from happiness or sadness. Maybe both. Maybe she also knew she had just lost her daughter. My father didn't clap, stood still, arms crossed, looking forward, stone face, no expression at all, empty. When they left the church, they threw rice. I threw it too, acted on autopilot, smiling, wishing happiness, saying it was beautiful, lying to myself, lying to everyone. Jennifer looked at me once, only once, and in that look was everything. There was fear, there was betrayal, there was despair, there was the question she couldn't ask out loud. Why did you let this happen? I had no answer, or I did, but I was too cowardly to admit it. So, I just looked away, and she got into the car with Arthur, and they drove off. And I stayed there standing, watching the car disappear around the curve, knowing I would never forgive myself for that day. There was no party, no lunch. Everyone went to their own home. My father locked up the store early. Mom went straight to her room and didn't come out the rest of the day. I went back to my house, sat in the kitchen and cried. Cried in hiding, where no one saw. My husband asked what was wrong. I said it was just the emotion of the wedding. He believed it, or pretended to believe. That night, lying in the safety of my own bed, I felt a phantom weight crushing my chest, suffocating me. My husband reached out to touch my arm in his sleep, and I flinched, pulling away as if his skin were made of fire. I felt dirty. I felt that by remaining silent, I hadn't just witnessed a crime. I had signed the contract myself. I stared into the darkness, and every time I closed my eyes, I didn't see sleep. I saw Jennifer's dead eyes at the altar. I saw the way her spirit had left her body, leaving behind a husk for that monster to devour. How does a sister live with that? How does she butter her toast the next morning, drink her coffee, and pretend she hasn't just thrown her own flesh and blood to the wolves? That guilt didn't just sit in my mind. It settled in my marrow, turning my own existence into a long, silent apology that no one could hear. Life limped on, dragging me with it. A week passed. 2, 3. I tried to visit Jennifer at the new house, but Arthur always had an excuse. She was tired. She was nauseous because of the pregnancy. She was sleeping, couldn't receive visitors. My father told me not to insist, that she needed time to get used to married life. My mother agreed. Everyone pretended everything was normal, everyone except me, because I knew something was very wrong and was going to get worse, much worse. I just didn't imagine how much. It took 3 months for me to manage to get into that house. 3 months in which Jennifer disappeared from the world. She didn't appear on the street anymore, didn't go to Mom's house, didn't go to Mass, nothing. Arthur said she was delicate because of the pregnancy, that the doctor had ordered bed rest. Everyone accepted it, except me. I insisted. Insisted so much that one day he finally gave in. Said I could visit, but only for half an hour because she tired easily. I said okay. Half an hour was better than nothing. So I went, crossed the town to his house, a big house on the outskirts, isolated, no neighbors nearby, far from everything, far from anyone who could hear a scream. That description, isolated, silent, far from help, is the classic architecture of a domestic prison, isn't it? You can practically feel the dread settling in the pit of your stomach. Barbara is walking into the belly of the beast, and sadly, her gut instinct is about to be proven terrifyingly right. The house was beautiful on the outside, well-kept, tidy garden. But when I entered, I felt something wrong. The air was heavy, dense, smell of mold, of being closed up. The curtains were all drawn, dark. Even during the day, it was dark inside. Arthur took me to the living room, told me to wait. He went up the stairs. I heard steps up there, muffled voices. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but his voice was firm, authoritative. And her voice was just a murmur, submissive, scared. After a few minutes, he came down smiling. Said Jennifer was coming down, that he was going to make coffee. Went to the kitchen, left me there alone. Jennifer came down slowly, holding the railing. Thin, much thinner than 3 months ago. The loose dress hanging on her, hair tied in a messy bun, pale face, purple circles under her eyes. When she got close, I saw it. I saw the bruise on her arm, trying to hide it with the long sleeve, but I saw. My heart raced. I got up, pulled her to the corner, away from the kitchen door. I asked quietly, "What happened to your arm?" She pulled the sleeve down, said she had fallen, that she was clumsy, that I didn't need to worry. The same excuse as always, the same lie every battered woman uses. And I knew it. Of course I knew. I held her by the shoulders, looked into her eyes, asked, "Jennifer, does he hit you?" She looked away. Tears started to fall. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The answer was there in her silence, in the way she trembled, in the fear I saw deep in those eyes. I said I was going to take her out of there, take her to Mom's house, that we would find a way. But she grabbed my arm with strength I didn't know she still had, and whispered, "No, you can't. If you say anything, he kills. He kills you. He kills me. He kills everyone. I know he kills, Barbara. I know." I froze at the way she spoke. It wasn't exaggeration. It wasn't drama. It was certainty. Pure terror. I asked how she knew. She looked at the kitchen door, checked if he wasn't coming, and said in a thread of a voice, "He says names when he's drunk. Names of girls. Patricia, Linda, Susan. He laughs, says they were weak, that they couldn't take it, that they died. I won't die, Barbara. I will endure. I will survive. But you need to stay quiet. Need to pretend you saw nothing. For the love of God." She was begging. My little sister was there begging me not to save her, begging me to leave her in that hell, because it was the only way for her to survive. Arthur returned with the silver tray, the china clinking softly, a sound of domestic normalcy that felt like a gunshot in that tension. He placed it down, his movements graceful, precise, like a predator who knows the cage is locked tight. "Secrets between sisters?" he asked, his voice smooth as velvet, but his eyes were cold, dead things that bored straight into mine. Jennifer released my arm as if burned, instantly molding her face into a mask of terrified obedience. Just pregnancy nausea, Arthur," she stammered, her voice trembling. He laughed, a low rumble that didn't reach his eyes, and placed a heavy hand on the nape of her neck. He began to stroke her hair, possessively, rhythmically. I watched her pupils dilate in sheer terror, her body going rigid like a trapped animal playing dead. He was daring me to speak. He was displaying his ownership right in front of me, mocking my cowardice, and I sat there, sipping the bitter coffee, swallowing my scream, becoming an accomplice yet again with every polite nod. I stayed for half an hour, but in that room, time didn't move. It rotted. We talked about nothing, about empty things, the weather, the harvest, recipes, words that said nothing. Arthur stayed there the whole time, watching, controlling. When I got up to leave, I hugged Jennifer. She whispered in my ear, "Don't come back, please. It's easier if you don't come back." It hurt more than anything, but I understood. Every visit of mine was torture for her, a reminder of what she had lost, of what she couldn't have anymore. So, I promised not to come back, promised to leave her in peace, promised to abandon her again. I left that house and threw up in the street. Out of nowhere, my stomach turned, and I threw up everything. I stayed there kneeling on the sidewalk, crying and vomiting, knowing I had left my sister to die, knowing she was right, that if I told anyone, he would kill her, would kill everyone, and no one would believe me, because he was Arthur Montgomery, a rich, respectable man. And who was I? Just a worried sister, a hysterical woman inventing things. So, I did what she asked. I didn't go back, didn't say anything. I stayed quiet, and Jennifer stayed there trapped, alone, dying little by little. A week later, the news arrived. Jennifer had lost the baby. Complication in the pregnancy, they said. The doctor said it was normal, that it happened, that she was very young, her body wasn't prepared. Lies. I knew it was a lie. She hadn't lost the baby because of her age. She lost it because he beat her until the baby came out, until nothing was left. I went to the baby's funeral, tiny white casket, small, empty. Jennifer was there, standing, dry eyes, not crying, not reacting, completely switched off. Arthur beside her, hand on her shoulder, playing the role of the desolate husband. And everyone believed it, everyone except me. But I said nothing, as always. Never said anything. Life continued. Months turned into years. Jennifer disappeared, became a ghost. Occasionally, someone saw her in the window, pale, thin, looking at the street, but never coming out, never talking to anyone. Arthur said she had been very shaken by the loss of the baby, that she was depressed, needed time. And the town accepted it because it was easier to accept than to question, easier to pretend everything was fine, than to admit there was a monster living among them, killing little by little. And everyone knew, deep down, everyone knew. They just didn't want to see. 5 years passed. 5 years in which I lived my life, and Jennifer lived her hell. I had my daughter, took care of the house, pretended I was okay. Pretended so much I almost started to believe it. Almost. But there were nights I woke up thinking about her, imagining what she was going through, if she was alive, if she still had hope, or if she had given up completely. I prayed every day for her to endure, to survive. But I did nothing else besides pray, because praying was easy. Praying didn't require courage, didn't require sacrifice, only required that I close my eyes and pretend God would fix what I didn't have the courage to fix. From time to time I saw Arthur in the street, in the square, at church, always polite, always smiling, always respectable. People greeted him with admiration. "Good morning, Mr. Arthur. How are you, Mr. Arthur?" And the wife? He answered that she was fine, a little fragile still, but fine. And no one questioned. No one asked why she never appeared, why she never left the house, why she never went to parties, baptisms, funerals. No one thought it was strange, or they did, but didn't speak, because speaking meant getting involved. And no one wanted to get involved. Not even me, especially me. One Sunday after Mass, he stopped beside me, smiled, asked how I was, how my daughter was, said Jennifer sent regards, that she missed me, that I should visit one of these days. I smiled back, said yes, that I would visit soon, that I sent a hug to her. Lie. I wasn't going to visit ever again because she had asked, and because I was too cowardly to face what I had let happen. So we stood there in front of the church talking about the weather, about the crops, about nothing. Two strangers pretending normality, while my sister rotted in that house. Alone, forgotten. My mother got sick around that time. It wasn't anything serious, just tiredness, sadness. She cried a lot, said she missed Jennifer, wanted to see her. My father wouldn't let her, said Jennifer had her life now, that we couldn't keep bothering, that we had to respect. Respect. What a beautiful word to hide cowardice. My mother obeyed, as she always obeyed, stayed home crying in secret, praying the rosary, asking God to protect her daughter, but God didn't protect, or protected in his own way, leaving her alive, but destroyed, alive, but dead inside. Does that count as protection? I don't know. I think I'll never know. My marriage was bad, not because of my husband. He was good, hard-working, didn't hit, didn't drink, but I couldn't be happy. Couldn't look at him without feeling guilt. Guilt for having the life Jennifer didn't have, for sleeping in peace, for not being beaten, for not living in fear, for having chosen my safety instead of hers. The guilt ate me from the inside. I lost weight, stopped smiling. My husband asked what was wrong. I said it was fatigue, that it would pass, but it didn't pass, only got worse. Every day that passed, the guilt grew, until I could barely breathe, barely could live, but continued, because continuing was all I knew how to do. In the meantime, I met Gary, better yet, re-met. We had been friends when I was younger. He was poor back then, had studied a lot, became a lawyer, returned to town, single, serious, honest. We met sometimes in the square, talked about nothing, about everything. He looked at me in a different way, a way that made me remember I was alive, that I still existed, that I wasn't just guilt and silence. I liked those meetings, liked them too much, more than I should, because I was married and he was the only good thing left in my life, the only thing that didn't hurt. One day, he asked about Jennifer, said he had heard about the marriage, thought it was strange. Such a young girl with such an old man, asked if she was happy. I hesitated, thought about telling, thought about saying everything about the bruises, the fear, the names Arthur spoke when drunk, about the dead girls, but I didn't tell. Said she was fine, that she was happy, that Arthur took good care of her. Lie, one more lie, once again choosing silence, and Gary accepted it, but I saw in his eyes, he didn't believe it. He knew something was wrong, but didn't insist. Because no one insisted, it was easier not to know. And then, on a random winter day, the news arrived. Arthur had died. Stroke at home. Suddenly, without warning, fell on the floor and died. Jennifer called the ambulance, but when they arrived, he was already dead. 60-something hours later was the funeral. When I found out, my first reaction was relief. Total, complete relief. He was dead. Jennifer was free. Finally free. I cried, but not from sadness, from relief, from hope, because I thought the nightmare was over. I didn't know it was just beginning, didn't know the worst was yet to come, that the truth was going to explode in a way no one expected, and that it was going to change everything forever. I went to the funeral not knowing what to expect, not knowing if Jennifer would be there, not knowing how she would be. The church was packed, everyone wanting to say the last goodbye to the respectable man, the honorable merchant, the kind widower who had helped so many people. Lies, all lies, but no one knew yet. I sat on a pew in the back, waited. The casket was open. He was inside, calm, serene, as if he had been a saint. People passed by, made the sign of the cross, said, "What a pity, what a good man, what a loss for the community." And I stayed there quiet, waiting for Jennifer, knowing that when she arrived, something was going to happen, feeling it in the air, on my skin, in my heart, something big, something terrible, something we would never forget. The funeral had already started when she appeared. I was there for an hour watching people pass by the casket, listening to the whispers. What a hard-working man, helped so many people. The widow must be devastated. Widow? Jennifer was now a widow. Free. But does freedom after so much suffering still count as a victory? I don't know. In that moment I just wanted her to appear, wanted to see with my own eyes that she was alive, that she had survived, that the monster hadn't taken her with him when he died. Arthur's family occupied the first pews, nephews, cousins, people from far away who appeared wanting a cut. All well-dressed, all crying, acting. None of them had visited him while alive, but now that he died, they all appeared interested. I knew that type. People who cry at the funeral, but are already calculating the inheritance, already dividing the assets, already deciding who gets what. And Jennifer? Jennifer had no right to anything in their heads, because she was too young, because the marriage had been strange, because they never accepted that union. I saw it in the looks, in the whispers. They weren't going to let her keep anything without a fight. It makes your blood boil watching these vultures circle, doesn't it? They think they are there to claim an inheritance, but they have absolutely no idea that Jennifer is about to walk through those doors and deliver a shock that will silence every single whisper in that room. My mother cried in a corner. I don't know if she cried for the dead son-in-law or for the daughter she hadn't seen in years. My father had a grim face, arms crossed, looking forward, without any emotion, maybe ashamed, maybe relieved. Hard to know what was going through his head. He was never one to show feelings, never one to admit mistakes, and that marriage had been the biggest mistake of his life, but he was going to take that to the grave without confessing. Some people prefer to die with the lie than live with the truth. My father was like that, and I was becoming like that too. Gary entered and sat a few pews in front of me. Our eyes met. He nodded slightly. I returned the greeting. He had come out of respect. Arthur was known in town. Every lawyer had to appear at the funeral of important people. That's how it worked. But I saw something in his face. A tension, a concern, as if he also felt that something was going to happen, as if the air had changed, become heavier, denser, as if a storm had come, and everyone was waiting for the first thunder. The priest started praying again. Beautiful words about eternal life, about deserved rest, about a good man who left too soon, 50 years old, died at 50, still young, still with many years ahead. If he had lived longer, how many other girls would he have destroyed? How many other Jennifers would he have trapped? How many others would have died? Maybe his death was the only justice we were going to get, the only punishment, because people like him never pay in life, never get caught, never answer, die respected, admired, while the victims die in silence, forgotten. That was when the door creaked. The sound echoed through the whole church. Everyone stopped, turned, looked, and there she was, Jennifer. For the first time in 5 years, I saw my sister, and almost didn't recognize her. Thin, too thin, bones showing, loose black clothes hanging on her body, hair long, loose, disheveled, face pale as paper, deep eyes, profound, empty. But there was something in them, something that wasn't there before. An anger, a determination, a fire I had never seen. She wasn't there to cry, wasn't there to play the role of the grieving widow. She was there for something else. And everyone felt it. She entered slowly, heels clicking on the wooden floor. One step, another, another. The silence was so big you could hear her breathing, could hear the wind outside, the creaking of the pews. When someone moved, people moved away, opened the path, as if she had a disease, as if she were dangerous. And maybe she was, because there was something about her, something that frightened, something wild, something that had been caged for too long and now was loose, ready to attack, ready to destroy everything. I held onto the pew with such force that my knuckles turned white. She stopped in front of the casket, stood there, looking down at his body. Arthur was there, quiet, dead, defenseless, for the first time in his life. Defenseless, unable to hit, unable to scream, unable to hurt, just a body, just dead meat. And Jennifer looked as if she were memorizing every feature, every wrinkle, every detail, as if she wanted to be sure it was real, that he was really dead, that he wouldn't wake up, wouldn't get up from there and grab her again. Time seemed to have stopped. No one breathed, no one moved, everyone waiting to see what she was going to do. That was when she moved, brought her hand to her face, wiped something. I thought it was a tear. Everyone thought so, but it wasn't. She was gathering saliva, gathering it in her mouth. And before anyone could understand what was happening, before anyone could react, she spat with force, with hate. The spit flew through the air and hit right in the middle of his face, ran down the dead man's face, slow, disgusting, and the whole church exploded. People screaming, getting up, the priest running. But there was no time because Jennifer started to scream. And what she said, what she revealed, changed everything. She screamed so loud the walls shook, screamed words that had been choked back for 5 years, screamed truths no one wanted to hear, and I stood there paralyzed, watching my little sister finally free herself, finally let out everything she had kept inside, everything that had hurt, everything that had killed her on the inside. And while she screamed, I cried from relief, from shame, from pain, because I knew every word coming out of that mouth was true, every accusation, every denunciation, and I had known the whole time, had known and done nothing. And now everyone was going to know too. Die again, you damn bastard. Her voice tore the silence like a knife, echoed on the walls, on the ceiling, in the pews, inside me. People froze. The priest stopped mid-step. My mother let out a stifled scream. My father tried to get up, but his legs didn't obey. And Jennifer continued screaming as if she had saved those words her whole life, as if every word was a stab, a revenge, a liberation. She pointed at the body in the casket. You think this man was good? Think he was a saint? I'm going to tell you what he really was. This man here wasn't my husband. He was my jailer, my torturer. You all thought it was beautiful for me to marry at 15, right? Thought it was romantic. But no one asked if I wanted to. No one asked what had happened. I was 14 when he took me by force. She screamed this, looking straight at my father who shrank on the pew, who became small, who wanted to disappear. 14. He took me on a Saturday afternoon, took me to the woods, tore me apart, hurt me, and when I got home bleeding, pregnant, destroyed, do you know what my father did? She laughed, a bitter laugh, totally humorless. My father sold me to him, sold his daughter to pay a debt, to hide shame, forced me to marry, and I had no choice. I was 14 and had no choice. Arthur's family started screaming, "Liar, wretch! Is this disrespect?" A nephew of his stood up, advanced on Jennifer, but Gary was faster, stood up, got between them, held the man by the arm. Let her speak. His voice was calm, but had authority, had firmness. The nephew tried to break free, but Gary didn't let him. Let her speak, and the man retreated, went back to the pew, huffing, red with anger, but silent. And Jennifer continued, because she hadn't finished yet, still had a lot to say. You want to know how these 5 years of happy marriage were? She opened her arms, lifted the sleeves of her dress, showed arms full of scars, old marks, new marks, burns, purple cuts that never healed right. He beat me every day, locked me in the house, didn't let me see anyone, didn't let me go out. When I tried to run away, he locked me in the room for days, without food, without water, until I begged for forgiveness. My mother was crying loudly now, sobbing, covering her face with her hands, wanting not to hear, but having to hear, because there was no way to run from those words. And the baby? Jennifer touched her own belly. You think I lost the baby? Why? Think it was a natural complication? He beat me. Beat me with a belt, with a broomstick, beat me until the baby came out, until I bled so much I thought I was going to die. And no one did anything. The doctor saw the marks, saw them, and said nothing. Because a man can do whatever he wants with his wife, right? Because she is property, is a thing, isn't a person. She spat on the floor this time, as if she wanted to get the disgusting taste of all that out of her mouth. Do you know what it is to be raped every day? Know what it is to have to smile when he comes back drunk? Have to open your legs when he wants? Have to pretend it doesn't hurt? Have to swallow the disgust? People started looking away, uncomfortable, ashamed, because Jennifer was saying things that aren't spoken of, things that stay hidden, things that everyone knows happen, but no one wants to admit. I prayed every day to die. Every day asked God to take me. But God didn't take me. Know why? Because I had to survive, had to endure to get to this day, to be able to spit in this bastard's face and say all this to you. My father tried to get up, tried to go to her, maybe to shut her up, maybe to ask for forgiveness. But Jennifer pointed her finger at him. Stay there. You have no right to come here. You sold me. You knew what he was going to do to me and sold me anyway. For money, for shame, to not have to explain to the town that your daughter had been raped. So it was easier to marry her to the rapist, solve the problem, right? My father lowered his head, didn't answer, didn't deny. Because there was no way to deny. It was all true, naked, raw, painful truth. But you don't know everything yet. Jennifer looked at the whole church. This man here, he did this before to other girls. Patricia, Linda, Susan, Karen. She shouted the names, one by one. He talked about them when he was drunk, laughed, said they were weak, that they couldn't take it, that they died. And no one questioned. No one asked why. No one investigated. Because he was rich. Because he was respectable. Because he was a man. And poor girls don't matter, right? No one cares when a poor girl dies. It sounds impossible in this day and age, doesn't it? How could 4 lives vanish right under the nose of an entire town? But Arthur's money was a blindfold that people willingly tied around their own eyes. Stay with us, because the way these sisters uncover the truth is nothing short of miraculous. He chose girls no one mourned, the invisible ones of society, so that when they disappeared, the world kept turning as if they had never existed at all. The silence now was absolute, heavy, suffocating. That was when Gary stood up again. He looked at Jennifer, then at the casket, then at the whole church, and said loud and clear, I will discover the truth about these girls. I will go after every name she spoke. I will go to every county clerk's office, visit every town, and if what she is saying is true, if this man really did this, everyone here will have to answer, because we can't hide it anymore. We can't pretend it didn't happen. The truth will come out, even if it takes time, even if it hurts, it will come. His voice echoed firm, decided. And I knew he would fulfill it, that he wouldn't give up, that the truth was finally going to appear. Jennifer left the church being carried by my mother, screaming, crying, releasing 5 years of pain all at once. Arthur's family was furious, cursing, threatening to sue for defamation. The priest tried to calm everyone down, but it was useless. The funeral ended in confusion, in scandal, in shame. Half the town left there shocked. The other half left thinking Jennifer had gone crazy with grief, that she had invented everything, that she was delirious, because it was easier to believe that than to believe a respected man was a monster. It is always easier to doubt the victim than the aggressor. Jennifer went to my mother's house, returned to her childhood room, to the small room in the back, locked the door, didn't want to see anyone, not even me, especially me, because I was guilty too. I had seen and had done nothing, had chosen my peace instead of her safety, and she knew. Of course she knew, so she avoided me. When I knocked on the door, she didn't answer. When I left food, she didn't eat, just stayed there locked up, silent. After screaming so much, she had returned to silence, as if she had used all the words she had saved and none were left. 3 weeks later, Gary appeared, knocked on my mother's door, asked to speak with Jennifer, said it was important, urgent. My mother hesitated, but he insisted, said he had discovered something Jennifer needed to know. My mother went to the room, knocked, called. It took a while, but Jennifer opened it, came out, came down, looked at Gary with suspicion, with fear. He opened a briefcase, took papers out of it, yellowed papers, old, and said, "I found them. I found the 4 of them." Jennifer went white, whiter than she already was, sat in the chair before falling. I was there too. Had gone to visit my mother and ended up witnessing everything. Gary put the papers on the table, one by one. Death certificates. 4. He started reading. Patricia Smith, 13 years old, died in 1952. Cause of death, high fever. Lived with Arthur Montgomery at the time. He declared the death. Said she was his goddaughter, that he was taking care of her because her parents had died. He paused, looked at Jennifer, 13 years old, and lived with him. Linda Jones, 15 years old, died in 1958, caused pneumonia. Also lived with Arthur, also declared as goddaughter. Another pause, another paper on the table. Susan Davis, 14 years old, died in 1963, cause complication in childbirth. Jennifer let out a moan, a low, animal sound of pure pain. She was pregnant, was 14, and was pregnant. Died in childbirth. The baby also died. Arthur registered everything. Said it was a tragedy he had tried to save. Gary's voice was trembling. He was also shaken. Also seeing the dimension of all that. And the last one? Karen Wilson, 16 years old, died in 1968, cause fall. Fell down the stairs, according to the record. Died instantly. Arthur said it was an accident. 4 certificates, 4 girls, 4 deaths, all living with Arthur, all of marriageable age, all dead from natural causes or accidents, all forgotten, buried, erased, as if they had never existed. Jennifer, you survived where they didn't survive. You were the only one. Gary held her hand. And now we are going to get justice for you, for them, for all of them. Jennifer looked at the papers, took each one, read the names slowly, the ages, the causes, and started to cry. No, a loud cry, a silent cry, tears streaming, body trembling. She repeated the names softly. Patricia, Linda, Susan, Karen. Like a prayer, like a request for forgiveness. I heard these names. He talked about them. I thought I had imagined it, thought it was my delirium. But they existed. They were real. And I survived when they couldn't. The guilt in her voice was heavy, painful, as if she thought she didn't deserve to have survived. I couldn't take it. I got up, hugged her. For the first time in 5 years, I hugged my sister. She resisted at the beginning, stayed stiff, but then gave in. Crumbled in my arms, cried everything she hadn't cried. And I cried along, asking for forgiveness, whispering that I was sorry, that I should have done something, that I should have saved her, and she just shook her head, said it wasn't my guilt. But it was. Of course it was. I had chosen not to see, had chosen not to act, and 4 girls had died before her, and she had almost been the 5th. Gary explained that he had traveled, had gone to 3 different towns, had searched registry offices, had talked to old people who still remembered, had put piece by piece together, had solved the puzzle, and what he discovered was worse than we imagined. Arthur had been doing this for decades, picked poor girls, orphans, or almost, said he was going to take care of them, took them home, and they disappeared, died. And no one questioned, because he was rich, because he was respectable, because poor girls didn't matter, never mattered. And he knew that, used that, took advantage of that. His family is going to try to hush it up, Gary warned. They're going to say it's a lie, going to say you invented it, going to try to take your inheritance, going to go to court. It's going to be a heavy fight. But I will defend you for free until the end. We will prove everything. We will show who he really was. Even if it takes years, we will succeed. Jennifer looked at him in his eyes, and for the first time I saw hope in that look. Small, fragile, but there. She nodded, accepted the help, accepted to fight, because she had nothing else to lose and had everything to gain. The next day, The news had already spread. The whole town commented. Some believed, others didn't. Some said Jennifer was brave, others that she was crazy. The neighbors whispered, men in the bar argued, the church was divided. But one thing was certain, no one was going to forget. No one was going to pretend it hadn't happened. The truth had come to light, raw, naked, bloody. And now we had to deal with it. Had to face it. Had to decide whose side to be on the side of truth or on the side of comfortable lies. It is chilling to see how quickly a community fractures when a comfortable lie is threatened by a horrific truth, isn't it? But notice that small spark of hope in Jennifer's eyes? That isn't just relief. It is the birth of a warrior who is finally ready to burn those lies to the ground, no matter how dirty the fight gets. Some people prefer the lie, always will prefer it, but some people choose the truth, even if it hurts, even if it burns, and I finally had chosen the truth. Too late. But I had chosen. The Montgomery family went to court 2 weeks after the burial. Didn't even wait for the mourning to pass. Didn't even pretend respect, just attacked. Their lawyer was expensive, known, ruthless. They alleged that the marriage had been under duress, that Jennifer didn't deserve any inheritance, that she had defamed an honorable man without proof, that everything was a lie of a resentful woman wanting easy money. They sued asking for annulment of the marriage, annulment of the inheritance, wanted to leave Jennifer with nothing on the street, as if she hadn't already lost everything, as if 5 years of torture weren't enough. Now they wanted to take even her right to start over. The process started fast. There was a hearing in the first month. Jennifer had to go, had to sit in that cold room of the courthouse, had to look at the family of the man who destroyed her. They sat on the other side, in suits, fancy dresses, jewelry, expensive perfume, looking at her with disgust, with contempt, as if she were trash, as if she had done something wrong, and not them, not Arthur. She always blaming the victim, always reversing everything. Gary presented the death certificates of the 4 girls, presented the medical report from when Jennifer lost the baby. The doctor had noted multiple bruises on the chart, had seen, but hadn't reported because it wasn't his problem. The lawyer for the Montgomery family rebutted everything, said death certificates proved nothing, that the girls could have died from illness indeed, that coincidence wasn't a crime, that the medical report didn't say it was Arthur who beat her. Could have been a fall, could have been an accident, could have been anything. And Jennifer had no witness, had no concrete proof, had no one who had seen Arthur beat her, because everything happened behind closed doors, because he was smart, because he knew how to do it, how to torture without leaving a trace that lasted. The marks on her body had disappeared. What was left was only her word against his memory. Jennifer had to testify, had to sit in that chair, had to swear to tell the truth and repeat everything again. Every beating, every rape, every day locked in the room without food. The family's lawyer asked disgusting questions. Are you sure you didn't consent? Didn't provoke? Didn't invent this later because you were angry? She answered with a firm voice, looking in his eyes. I was 14. How does a 4-year-old girl consent to being raped? But he continued attacking, insinuating, trying to break her, trying to make her seem like a liar, make her seem crazy. And she endured, answered everything. Didn't cry, didn't scream, just answered with a strength I don't know where it came from. The judge heard everything, noted everything, but decided nothing in that hearing. Said he needed more proof, more witnesses, more time. Marked a new hearing for 3 months later, and 3 more after that, and 3 more. The process dragged on. Months turned into a year. 1 year turned into 2. 2 turned into 3. 3 years of waiting. 3 years of uncertainty. 3 years in which Jennifer lived in my mother's house, sleeping in the childhood room. Without money, without anything. Because the inheritance was blocked, the house was blocked, the lands blocked, everything trapped until the judge decided. And meanwhile, she had to survive. She started working, took a job as a maid, cleaning other people's houses, washing clothes, ironing, cooking, earning peanuts, almost nothing. But it was what she had. It was what she could get, because no one wanted to hire her for anything else. No one wanted a woman with a reputation for being crazy, for being a slanderer, for being problematic. So she cleaned, scrubbed floors on her knees, came home with her back aching, with hands cracked from soap, with the smell of bleach stuck to her skin, and didn't complain. Never complained. Just worked, saved every penny, waited for justice that seemed to never arrive. My mother helped how she could, gave food, gave shelter, but was weak, getting sick. The guilt ate her from the inside. She cried every night, prayed asking for forgiveness. But forgiveness from whom? From God? From Jennifer? From herself? She had been an accomplice, also had stayed silent, had obeyed her husband, had chosen to keep the family united instead of protecting her daughter, and now saw her daughter destroyed, working like a slave, waiting for justice that might never come. Some mothers protect their children with their own lives, and some mothers sacrifice their children to keep the peace. My mother was the second, and that killed her little by little. My father couldn't take it. The weight was too much. He started drinking, something he had never done. Arrived home drunk, screaming, saying Jennifer had destroyed the family, that she had shamed everyone, that she should have stayed quiet, should have endured, should have been a good wife. He didn't admit guilt, didn't ask for forgiveness, just attacked, just blamed, as if Jennifer were the problem, as if she had chosen to be raped, chosen to marry forced, chosen to be beaten every day. He preferred to believe that than face what he had done, preferred to die drunk than live with a clean conscience. In the middle of the second year of the process, he had a heart attack at home early in the morning. Fell in the kitchen. My mother screamed. They called an ambulance, but there was no time. Died on the way to the hospital. 60-something years old. Died without asking for forgiveness. Died cursing his daughter until the last breath, saying she was guilty, that she had killed him, that she had destroyed everything. The funeral was small, few people. Jennifer didn't go, stayed home, locked in her room, didn't cry, didn't feel anything, or felt everything, but didn't show. I went, looked at the casket, at his body, and didn't feel pity. I felt relief, because now he couldn't hurt anyone else, couldn't lie anymore, couldn't run from the truth. After he died, the process accelerated, as if his death had unlocked something. 3 months later, there was the final hearing. The judge had analyzed everything, had read every document, every testimony, had seen the certificates of the 4 girls, had seen the medical report, had heard Jennifer 3 times, had heard the Montgomery family, had heard neighbors who confirmed they never saw Jennifer leave the house, who heard screams that they were suspicious of, but no one had done anything, no one ever does. And then the judge banged the gavel. Jennifer won everything. Complete inheritance, house, lands, money, everything. The Montgomery family left furious, threatening to appeal, but it was no use. The decision was made. Jennifer had won. But victory has a price, and the price she paid was high. 3 years of her life, 3 years working, suffering, waiting, 3 years being judged, being attacked, being called a liar. When she left that courthouse with the sentence in hand, she didn't smile, didn't celebrate, just looked at the paper, at her name written there, legal owner of everything, and sighed. A deep sigh, tired, of someone who had fought too much, lost too much, and now had to figure out how to live with everything that was left. Some people think justice heals, but it doesn't heal, only closes the wound, and a closed wound still hurts. Victory in the courtroom doesn't always mean peace in the heart, especially when your own family has turned against you. But don't click away yet, because the darkest family secret is still hiding in the shadows, waiting for a deathbed confession to finally bring it to light. It will always hurt. While Jennifer fought in court, I pretended my life was normal, took care of the house, took care of my daughter, Julia, smiled at my husband, went to mass, greeted neighbors, did everything a married woman had to do, but inside, I was rotting. Guilt ate, gnawed, didn't let me sleep, didn't let me breathe. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw the coward I was, saw the sister who had abandoned the other, saw the woman who chose comfort instead of courage, and hated myself with every fiber of my being, but continued, because continuing was all I knew how to do. My marriage was empty, had no love, never did. I had married because my father ordered, because it was what was done, because a woman needed a husband to be someone. The man was good, hard-working, didn't beat, didn't cheat, didn't drink, did everything right, but I didn't love him. Never loved. And he knew. Of course he knew. Saw in the way I pulled away when he touched, in the way I avoided looking in his eyes, in the way I pretended to be sleeping when he got close. And he accepted, because that's how it worked. A woman didn't need to love, just needed to obey, be available, fulfill a role. And I fulfilled it every single day, dying a little each time. Julia grew up in this climate, grew up seeing an unhappy mother pretending happiness, seeing a father resigned to a cold marriage. She turned 12, 13, 14, the same age Jennifer was when she was destroyed. And I looked at her, at the girl she was, innocent, fragile, and thought, how does someone look at a child like this and see something else? How does someone hurt this? How did my father allow it? How did I allow it? The answer always came back. Cowardice, fear, selfishness. I protected my peace, my safety, my comfortable life, and let my sister be sacrificed. Is there forgiveness for this? Is there really? I saw Gary sometimes in the street, at the courthouse, when I went to visit Jennifer during the hearings. He was always polite, always asking how I was, if I needed anything. His eyes had something that moved me. A kindness, an understanding, something I didn't have at home, something I had thrown away years ago when I obeyed my father and married another. He never married, stayed alone, dedicated to work, to justice, fighting for people like Jennifer. And I asked myself, how would my life be if I had chosen differently? If I had had courage, would I be happy? Would I be whole? I'll never know because I didn't choose. Let others choose for me, and now lived with the consequence. When my father died, I didn't cry. Went to the funeral. Sat in the front pew as the eldest daughter that I was. Heard the priest talk about a hard-working man, family father, honorable merchant. Lies, all lies. He wasn't a father. A father protects. A father cares. A father dies before letting evil happen to his child. He was a salesman. Sold his daughter for money and reputation, and died without admitting, without asking for forgiveness, without trying to fix it. Died blaming Jennifer until the end, calling her the disgrace of the family. And I let him speak. Let him die with a lie in his mouth, because it was easier, always easier. In the cemetery, when they lowered the casket, I looked at the grave, at the dirt falling, covering, burying, and thought, you took your mistakes with you, didn't have to answer, didn't have to face, fled. But I am here alive, having to carry, having to remember, having to look at Jennifer every day, knowing I failed her. You had an easy death. I have a difficult life. Which is worse? I looked to the other side of the cemetery. Gary was there from afar, had gone out of respect. Our eyes met. He gave a slight nod of solidarity, of understanding, and something inside me broke. Something I had held for years. I started to cry. Not for my father, for me, for the life I didn't live, for the love I didn't have, for the choices I didn't make. After the burial, life returned. My mother got sicker, deep sadness, depression that no medicine cured. She saw Jennifer working as a maid, saw her daughter fighting alone and blamed herself. Said she had been weak, that she should have faced her husband, that she should have protected. I held her hand, said it wasn't her fault, but it was a lie. It was guilt just as it was mine, just as it was everyone's who saw and did nothing. Omission also kills, sometimes kills more than action, because it leaves the victim alone, abandoned, with no one to extend a hand. And Jennifer stayed alone for 5 years, and then for 3 more, waiting for justice, 8 years of her life, destroyed by a man we let act. When the sentence finally came out, when Jennifer won, I thought I was going to feel relief. But I didn't. I felt emptiness, because winning a lawsuit doesn't return a life, doesn't erase pain, doesn't heal trauma. She had won money, property, but had lost youth, innocence, ability to trust, to love, to be happy. What is worth more? Some people say time heals everything, but it doesn't heal. Time only teaches to live with pain, to carry it without falling, to pretend everything is fine when inside everything is broken. And Jennifer learned that, learned to survive, but forgot how to live. She bought a small boarding house with the inheritance money, didn't want to keep Arthur's house, sold it, sold the lands, sold everything that reminded her of him, kept only the money and used it to start over. Called 2 friends, women who had also suffered, who also knew pain, and together opened the boarding house. Small, simple, but theirs, a safe place, where they ruled, where they decided, where no man could enter and destroy. And little by little the boarding house grew, became a reference, became a home for other women too. Women fleeing, restarting, surviving. Jennifer transformed pain into purpose, and I continued in my little life, safe, empty, useless. Decades passed, I aged. Julia grew up, became a woman, studious, determined, everything I wasn't. She went to college, studied administration, came back to town, and went to work with her aunt. With Jennifer, because they understood each other, because Julia admired her aunt's strength, courage, ability to rebuild. And I was just the mother, the cowardly sister, the woman who never had courage for anything. They didn't say that, but I saw in their eyes, in the way they avoided certain subjects, in the silence that fell when I arrived. I had become invisible, irrelevant, dead weight in other people's story, and maybe that was what I deserved. The years flew, turned into decades. Jennifer's boarding house grew, turned into a hotel. Beautiful hotel, well managed. With Julia helping, the business took off. Renovated, expanded, hired people, became a reference in Gatlinburg. Jennifer prospered. Didn't marry, didn't date, didn't want to. Said she was fine alone, that she didn't need a man for anything. And she was right. She had built an empire with her own hands, had transformed a monster's inheritance into a place of welcome, into a home for women who needed it. I visited sometimes, few times, because the distance between us had grown. We didn't fight, just drifted apart. Each one in her life, each one with her pain. My husband died when Julia was 20-something, heart attack, quick, without suffering. I was left a widow, alone, with a big and empty house, with a life that had never been mine. Continued because that was what I did. Continued. Julia moved out, went to live near the hotel, work for real with her aunt. And I stayed alone with my regrets, with my wrong choices, with the weight of everything I didn't do. Some years later, I moved to Nashville. Small apartment, late restart, attempt to find something I had never had. Peace, maybe, or at least silence, that didn't scream accusations. It was early in 2024 that the phone rang. It was Julia, voice tense, worried. Mom, Grandma is very bad, hospitalized. The doctors say she doesn't have much time. She wants to speak with you and Aunt Jennifer. Says it's urgent, that she needs to speak before going. My heart squeezed. My mother was already over 100 years old, tiny, fragile, had lived so much, carried so much, suffered so much, and now was at the end. Wanting to speak, wanting to clean her conscience before leaving, I said I was coming. Caught a bus the next day. Went back to Franklin, to the town I had fled, to face what I always avoided. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and death, that smell that sticks in the throat that doesn't leave. Went up to her room, 5th floor, door ajar. Entered slowly. She was in the bed, tiny, curled up, skin yellowed, deep eyes, weak breathing, machines beeping, IV dripping. Julia was by her side, holding her hand. Jennifer arrived minutes after me. We looked at each other, her and I, for the first time in years like this, so close. She was 69 now. Gray hair, wrinkles, stronger, firm, survivor. I was 79, old, tired, defeated. 2 sisters, 2 paths, one who fought, another who fled. My mother opened her eyes when she realized we were there. Tried to smile. Couldn't. Just a weak contraction of the lips signaled Julia to leave, so it was just the 3 of us. Julia hesitated, but obeyed. Closed the door, and it was me, Jennifer, our mother. Heavy silence, thick, full of unspoken things. She took both our hands, cold hand, trembling, and said with a weak but clear voice, I need to speak before dying. Need to let it out, otherwise I go to hell carrying it. Jennifer squeezed her hand. Speak, Mom. We are here. I always knew. The words came out in a whisper, but cut like a knife. Always knew what Arthur was doing. I saw the marks, saw the fear, saw you disappearing little by little, Jennifer, and did nothing. Because your father told me to stay quiet, told me not to interfere, said everything would work out, that Arthur would take care of you and I. I obeyed as always. Obeyed. Lost my daughter because I obeyed. She was crying, tears running down, wetting the pillow. Jennifer didn't react, just stayed there, listening, absorbing. I cried too because I also had done the same thing. Obeyed, stayed quiet, let happen. But she hadn't finished. There was more, something worse. But there is something else, something I never told, something your father made me swear never to speak. She looked at the ceiling, took a deep breath, gathered strength. Before the wedding, a few days before, Mrs. Bridges, the old neighbor, came here to the house, spoke with your father, said she knew Arthur from another town, that he had done this before, that girls had died, that he was dangerous. She tried to warn, tried to stop. My blood froze. Jennifer went rigid. And what did Dad do? Her voice was controlled, dangerously controlled. He sent her away, said it was gossip, said Arthur was a good man, said she just wanted to cause trouble. My mother sobbed now, whole body trembling. But later, when Mrs. Bridges left, he came to talk to me, said he had already taken Arthur's money, that he couldn't return it, that if he undid the marriage, he would have to pay everything back, and there was no way. Was going to lose the store, going to be on the street. So he decided it was better to marry you anyway, even knowing other girls had died. He knew, Jennifer, your father knew you could die and forced the marriage anyway. The silence that filled that hospital room weighed heavier than any stone. That was the moment the last shred of respect they held for their father evaporated. Weakness is one thing, but to knowingly sell your own child into the arms of death, that is a specific kind of evil that is hard to comprehend. Silence. Total, absolute, deafening silence. Jennifer let go of her mother's hand, stood up, went to the window, stood there with her back turned, looking at the street down below. Didn't say anything, didn't move, just stayed processing, absorbing, understanding the complete dimension of the betrayal. It hadn't been just cowardice, hadn't been just fear, had been a conscious, calculated choice. He had chosen money instead of his daughter's life, knowing, completely knowing, and had died without confessing, without asking for forgiveness, without giving her a chance to understand the size of the betrayal. I couldn't move. My mind spun, trying to process. My father had been worse than I imagined, much worse. He hadn't been just neglectful, had been an accomplice, almost a murderer, because if Jennifer had died like the other four, the guilt would be his, totally his. And my mother had known, had carried this secret for more than 50 years, had lived with this, had died a little every day, knowing, and now, on her deathbed, threw this at us, cleaning her conscience, but dirtying our memory of him even more. Was there forgiveness for this? Was there really? Why are you telling this now? Jennifer's voice came from the window, cold, hard. Why didn't you tell before? When he was alive? When I could have thrown it in his face? My mother cried harder, because I am a coward. Always was. And because he made me swear, said if I told he would kill me. And I believed, was afraid, and was a coward like always. Jennifer turned, looked at Mom, and said something that broke me. You are no different from him. You knew, and stayed quiet, out of fear, out of convenience. Let him sell me, destroy me, knowing I could die. And want forgiveness now? Want to die in peace? The silence that came was too heavy to bear. My mother closed her eyes, more tears running down. Don't want forgiveness. No, I don't deserve it. Just wanted you to know the truth, all of it before I go, for you to decide what to do with it, if you are going to forgive me or not, if you are going to remember me with anger or with pity. I can't choose, only can confess and die knowing I spoke. Jennifer stood there, looking, thinking, and then did something I didn't expect. Returned to the bed, took Mom's hand again and said, I don't know if I forgive, don't know if I can, but you are my mother and you are dying, so I will stay here until the end. And the two stayed. We stayed, the three of us, until she breathed for the last time. 3 days later, and died, taking guilt to the grave, but leaving truth here for us to carry. After my mother died, Jennifer and I sat in the hospital waiting room, alone, saying nothing, just there absorbing everything that had been said. The complete truth, the final betrayal. Our father had known, had been warned, had chosen money. Even so, it wasn't ignorance, it was pure evil, calculated, cold. And our mother had kept this for 50 years, had died with this weight and thrown it on us. I looked at Jennifer. She looked at the wall, face without expression. I asked quietly, "How do you endure?" She turned to me. "By choice. Either I endure or I die. And I won't give that pleasure to them. I won't." We went back to Franklin the next day. Mom's burial was quiet, small, few people. She had outlived almost all acquaintances, friends, family. Died old, tired, guilty. We buried her next to my father, together in death, as they were in life, accomplices, negligent, cowards. When they lowered the casket, Jennifer said, "Now it's over. Now only you and I are left." And she was right. Their generation had gone taking secrets, taking guilt, leaving us to deal with debris, to rebuild what they broke, to try to find peace in the middle of the war they started and never finished. 2 weeks after the burial, the notification arrived. We had published an obituary for Mom, and in it, Jennifer had insisted on mentioning the truth about our father and Arthur. She wanted the silence to end completely. But that obituary sparked a fire. Lawsuit again. But not from the whole Montgomery family. It was from a nephew, the oldest, man of 70-something years now. Lawyer too, rich, powerful. He filed a lawsuit against Jennifer for defamation, citing the obituary and claiming her renewed accusations were damaging the family's remaining business interests. He argued that without fresh proof, dragging up old lies was malicious, that the Montgomery name had been stained unjustly, that he had lost clients, contracts, money, and demanded reparation. Wanted to block the hotel, wanted compensation, wanted to destroy everything Jennifer had built, once again trying to take from her what was hers, because people like that never stop, never accept defeat, always come back, always attack. Jennifer was shaken. Not with fear, with anger. Pure anger. After everything, after 50 years, they still wanted more, still wanted blood. They won't stop ever, Barbara. Going to persecute me until I die, until taking everything from me, until seeing me on the street, because for them, I am not a person, I am a thing that dared to speak, that dared to denounce, that dared to survive. She was right, but this time she wasn't going to fight alone. This time I was going to do what I should have done 50 years ago, going to stand by her side, going to testify, going to speak, going to use my voice that stayed silent too long. Gary appeared the next day, was already 83 years old, retired officially, but when he learned of the lawsuit, took the case, said he was going to defend Jennifer until the end, for free, as always. He and I talked for the first time in decades, talked for real, without avoiding the subject, without pretending. He said, "Barbara, I know you carry guilt, see it in your face, but now you have a chance to do differently, to testify, to speak the truth publicly, to stand by her side. Will you accept?" I looked in his eyes. Eyes I had loved so long ago, eyes that still saw something in me worth it, and said, "I will, this time I will." The process ran fast. The nephew had expensive lawyers, but Gary had something better, had truth, had documents, had the certificates of the 4 girls, had medical reports, had old testimonies, and had me. When my turn came to testify, I went up to that chair with 79 years on my back, with half a century of guilt in my chest, and spoke. I told that I had seen the signs, that Jennifer had asked me for help, that I didn't give it, that I stayed silent out of fear, out of cowardice, that I could have saved her and didn't save. I cried in front of everyone, asked for forgiveness from her publicly, right there. Jennifer was in the audience crying too. And when I finished, she nodded, a small nod of forgiveness, of liberation, and something inside me let go. It wasn't just relief. It was as if a dam holding back 50 years of black, stagnant water had finally broken. For decades, she had been the sister who looked away, the one who chose the easy silence, but in that witness chair, pointing her trembling finger at the ghost of the man who ruined them, she finally became the big sister Jennifer had deserved all along. Something I carried for so long I didn't even remember how it was to live without. It wasn't just relief. It took me 79 years to find that courage. 79 long years. So, My friend, if you are holding on to a truth that needs to be spoken, don't wait until your hair is as gray as mine. The freedom found on the other side of fear, it is worth every single trembling moment it takes to get there. I looked at Jennifer, really looked at her, not as a victim, but as the mirror of my own conscience. That small nod she gave me was more valuable than any verdict, any inheritance. It was permission to finally forgive myself. The nephew's lawyer tried to attack me, tried to say I was inventing, that I was old, confused, that my memory wasn't good. But Gary didn't let him. Presented more proof, brought new witnesses. People who had lived near Arthur's house, who had heard screams, seen marks, suspected, but also hadn't done anything. The whole town had been an accomplice. Not just me, not just my family, everyone. And now everyone was going to have to face that, was going to have to admit, was going to have to choose a side, truth or lie, justice or comfort. The judge heard everything, analyzed everything, and 3 months later banged the gavel. This time, the judgment wasn't just about inheritance, it was about history. The judge reaffirmed the findings from decades ago, but added a punitive weight to them. Jennifer won. Won again, but this time there was more. The judge recognized publicly that Arthur Montgomery had been a predator, murderer, monster, recognized the 4 dead girls as his victims, and condemned the Montgomery family to pay compensation to Jennifer. $200,000 for continued moral damages, for persecution, for attempting to destroy her even after everything she had passed. It was complete victory, total, definitive. When the sentence came out, Jennifer hugged Gary, hugged Julia, and hugged me strong and whispered, "Thank you for finally standing by my side." And I cried. Cried from relief, from gratitude, from redemption. We left that courthouse as winners, didn't erase the past, didn't cure everything, but closed the cycle. The war ended. The Montgomery family couldn't touch Jennifer anymore, couldn't persecute anymore, couldn't try to destroy anymore. It had ended, finally had ended. On the way back, Jennifer said, "Know what I'm going to do with this money? Going to renovate the whole hotel. Going to do something beautiful. Something that honors the girls, the ones who didn't survive. Going to make them be remembered." And I knew she would, because she always did what she promised. Always transformed pain into something bigger. Always won. Doesn't matter how long it took, she always won. The hotel renovation started the following week. Jennifer used the $200,000 from the compensation plus money she had saved. Julia helped plan everything. Architect, decorator, construction. Would take months, but was going to be worth it. Going to expand, modernize, create a bigger space, more rooms, more comfort. And the day they signed the contract, Jennifer called me, said she wanted my help too, that she wanted me to work with her. Not out of pity, but because we were sisters, because we had survived, and because it was time to rebuild together. I accepted. Left the apartment in Nashville, went back to Gatlinburg, returned to be near her, to finally be part of her life. After spending so much time out, we worked together during the renovation, choosing colors, furniture, details. Jennifer wanted everything to be welcoming, warm, safe. A place where a woman felt at home, where she could breathe without fear, where she could start over. We spent hours talking about everything, about the past, about what could have been different, about the future, about hope, reconnected in a way I thought would never happen. The distance diminished. The hurt went away. Not completely. Scar still hurts sometimes, but we learned to live with it, learned to forgive, not forget, never forget, but forgive, because anger tires. And we had already tired too much. Gary appeared from time to time to see how the work was, to drink coffee, to talk. He and I had something. Still had. After so many years, after so much stuff, there was still something there. One day, drinking coffee in the hotel kitchen, he asked, "Barbara, have you ever thought about starting over, trying again, this time with your choice?" I looked at him, at the white hair, at the wrinkles, at the eyes that still shone when they looked at me, and said, "I think every day, Gary, but I am 79 years old. Isn't it too late?" He smiled, took my hand and said, "It is never late, never." And my heart, old and tired, beat stronger. The renovation took 6 months. When it was ready, we had an inauguration. Invited the whole town. Many people came, curious, supporters, people wanting to see what had been done. The hotel was beautiful. Light walls, new furniture, garden in front and at the entrance a big plaque. Bronze, with the names in memory of Patricia Smith, Linda Jones, Susan Davis and Karen Wilson, who didn't survive, but were not forgotten. Jennifer had ordered it made. Had insisted, because they deserved to be remembered, deserved someone saying out loud, "You mattered, you existed, you didn't die in vain." The party was beautiful. Music, food, people talking, laughing, celebrating. Jennifer cut the ribbon. She officially rededicated the hotel as the New Beginnings Inn. It was a name she had finally chosen to replace the old sign, symbolizing not just her survival, but the sanctuary she had built over the decades. About being reborn, about starting again, about transforming ashes into something alive, into something that breathes, that pulses, that matters. Everyone applauded. There were people crying, people who knew the story, who knew the price that had been paid, the blood, the pain, the sacrifice, and now saw the victory, saw the beauty being born from tragedy, and it was beautiful, was really beautiful. At the end of the night, when the party ended, Gary called me, asked me to go with him to the little square near the hotel. We sat on the bench, same bench we had sat on 50 years ago, when we were young, when we were others. The silence was nice, comfortable, until he spoke. "Barbara, I waited for you for 50 years. I won't wait anymore. Marry me." I looked at him, at this man who never gave up, who never stopped seeing something in me and said, "But we are old, Gary. I am 79, you 83. Does it make sense to marry now?" He laughed. "Makes all the sense, because we are still alive, still here, still can choose. And I choose you. Now you choose." 50 years of waiting comes down to this single, beautiful moment. It really drives home the message that true love doesn't look at calendars or clocks. It only looks at the soul. If you've ever felt like you missed your chance at happiness, let this be your sign that it's never too late to say yes to a new beginning. I didn't think much. Didn't need to, because I also had chosen. 50 years ago, I had let my father choose for me. Had married who he ordered, had lived a life that wasn't mine. But now I had a voice, had a choice, had freedom, and I chose him. Chose love, chose happiness, chose to live. Finally live the years left to me. So I said yes, said I would marry, and he hugged me strong, as if he had waited his whole life for that hug. And maybe we had waited, both of us, for this moment, for this chance, for this fresh start. We married 2 months later. Small ceremony, just family. Julia, Jennifer, some friends in the hotel garden. Sunny afternoon. Jennifer was my maid of honor. Cried, laughed, said finally I had done something right and she was right. It was the first time in life I chose. I decided. I took the reins. And it was liberating. It was light. It was right. Gary looked at me as if I were the most precious thing in the world. And I looked at him the same way. Because he was. He was everything I didn't have the courage to have before and now had. Now was mine. Now we were one. After the wedding, we moved to a townhouse in Nashville. Small, cozy, ours. We spent the days talking, laughing, enjoying each other's company, without hurry, without fear, just living for real. And it was good. Was so good that sometimes I didn't believe it. Woke up in the morning and thought it was a dream, but it wasn't. It was real. Was my life, finally mine. And Jennifer ran the hotel with Julia, with the employees, with success. The business went well, made a profit, grew. She had succeeded, had transformed a monster's inheritance into a legacy of hope. And I had achieved something too. Had achieved forgiveness, redemption, fresh start. Had achieved living. Even if late, even if with white hair and tired body, I was living, and it was worth it. Every second was worth it. Today, sitting here in the living room of my townhouse in Nashville, with 79 years completed, looking out the window, I think about everything that happened, about everything we went through, about everything we lost and everything we gained. It was long, it was painful, it was almost impossible, but we arrived here, Jennifer and I, alive, whole, as much as possible, victorious in our way. Gary is in the kitchen making tea. Hear him messing with the cups, whistling softly, happy. And I am happy too. For the first time in life, I am truly happy. Not that pretended happiness, not that forced peace, but real happiness that comes from inside that no one can take. Jennifer calls me every week, tells the news of the hotel, of the new guests, of the women who arrive needing help and find it, of the stories of overcoming, of restarting. The hotel became more than a business, became a refuge, became a home, a place where a woman who suffered can breathe, can heal, can be reborn. And Jennifer, she became a symbol, an example, living proof that it is possible to survive the worst and still build something beautiful. She never married, never wanted to, says she is complete like this. And I believe it, because she really seems complete, seems at peace. Not that peace of someone who forgot, but peace of someone who faced, won, and now rests, deservedly. Julia became an official partner of the hotel, manages everything with her aunt. The two work well together, complement each other. Julia brought modernity, organization, business vision, and Jennifer brought heart, purpose, soul. Together made the hotel take off. Today, it is a reference in the whole region. Has a waiting list, has people wanting to work there, has awards, recognition, but most importantly, has women being saved. Every month someone arrives fleeing, hurt, scared, and finds the door open. Arms that welcome, people who understand, because Jennifer knows. She lived it, she survived, and now uses her pain to diminish the pain of others. That has no price. Sometimes I think about what could have been different. If I had had courage earlier, if I had faced my father, if I had taken Jennifer out of that house, how many years of suffering I could have spared, how much life she could have lived. But then I remember, it's no use living on ifs. It's no use staying trapped in what wasn't. What matters is what we do now, with the time left, with the choices we can still make. I chose finally to stand by her side, chose to speak, chose to love who I wanted to love. Late? Yes, but still worth it, because even one day of true life is worth more than years of fake life. Some people look at our story and see only tragedy, see only pain, see only suffering. And there is all that. I won't lie. There is blood, there is death, there is horror, but there is also something else. There is resistance, there is courage, there is victory. Jennifer survived where 4 others died. She faced years of torture and didn't break, fought injustice for 3 years and won, transformed a monster's inheritance into a house of healing. And I carried guilt for 50 years, but finally freed myself, finally chose, finally lived. That also counts. That is also important, because in the end, the story isn't just about the fall, it's about the rising too. The 4 girls were never forgotten. Every time someone enters the hotel New Beginnings, sees the names on the plaque, Patricia, Linda, Susan, Karen, and asks who they were, Jennifer tells their story, tells they were victims, that they didn't survive, that they deserve to have lived. And so they continue alive in memory, in the heart of who listens, on the plaque that shines at the entrance. They weren't erased, weren't forgotten, and that matters, because every victim deserves to be remembered, every lost life deserves to be honored. And Jennifer did that, made a point of it, and I think it's beautiful, think it's necessary, think it's the minimum we owed to their sacrifice. About my parents, I made peace with them as best I could, didn't forgive completely. You can't forgive someone who sold their daughter knowing she could die, but understood they were products of their time, of their society, of the values they learned. Doesn't justify, never will justify, but helps to understand. And understanding helps not to carry so much hate, so much weight. They erred a lot, gravely, but also paid. My father died blaming his daughter, but knowing deep down he was the guilty one. My mother lived 50 years with a secret corroding her, died unhappy, died without peace. That isn't sufficient punishment for what they did, but it's what there was, and I accept it. Gary taught me it is never late to choose happiness. He waited 50 years. 50. Could have given up. Could have moved on. But didn't move. Waited, and when the chance came, grabbed it. We grabbed it, and now we have this. These final years, this company, this late love, but true. We walk, talk, laugh, sleep embraced, wake up grateful. Don't know how much time we have. No one knows. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that we have now. And now is good, is real, is ours. And choosing to live well even at the end of life is an act of courage, is an act of faith, is an act of self-love that I never had before and now have and won't let go. Looking back on that path paved with tears, I've realized that no matter how brutal the past, we always hold the power to rewrite our own endings. Jennifer transformed her agony into a shield for others, while I finally found redemption in a late-blooming love and the courage to speak the truth. And what about you, my friend listening right now? Is there a fear holding you back from the life you deserve, or a truth you're burying in silence? Don't wait until your hair turns gray like mine to finally choose yourself. Step into the light and take action today, because it is truly never too late to start over. Please share your story or thoughts in the comments. I truly want to hear from you as a close friend. And if this story of rebirth touched your heart, please don't forget to subscribe so we can continue this journey of soul awakening stories together.